fail to fall in love with someone during your stay here, you'll turn into an animal. Have you thought of what animal you'd like to be?
Yes, a lobster.
A lobster is an excellent choice.
Okay, so The Lobster.
The name is in the trailer without giving away the title.
Yeah.
Why is it called The Lobster?
Because, well, the movie's about basically a low-key concentration camp set for single people where you have 40 days to find a mate, and if you don't, you're going to be transformed into an animal of your own choice.
You heard that right. So The Lobster, the name of the movie is The Lobster. It is a very film festival happy, what would you say, movie.
Well, it started in film festivals, but I think it's for anybody with a sense of humor, really. I mean, especially if you have like a dark sense of humor or you like a lot of sarcasm or awkward humor, it's definitely for you. It's very weird. The sense of humor is really dry, like desert dry. So if you don't get dry humor, then you might not enjoy this as much as other people. But yeah, it's directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who's made last year's Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is another movie I love that year. That was one of my favorites. He directed another movie called Dogtooth a couple years ago, which I haven't seen. And this guy definitely has a very, very unique style, or at least how he tells his stories.
Yeah. So when we were watching like interviews with the director, he mentions that this movie will be different. Just the way that he directs it, the way that it's written, the way that, you know, like Nick said, it's kind of like, it actually is a dark comedy, but it's going to depend on maybe what phase or like point of your life that you're in. And that was intentional when he was, you know, writing it and talking about social and like social norms that we have and like the expectations on people to be like single, married, finding somebody else, and you know whether those have changed or not throughout the years.
Yeah, societal status.
Yeah.
Basically, in this universe, it's almost a death sentence to be single.
Yeah.
You
well, basically is. It more or less is. So this movie opens. The star of the movie is Colin Farrell.
Yep. Also has Rachel Weisz, Leah Seydoux, John C. Reilly, and then Ben Whishaw, who you may know as Q from James Bond or Paddington.
Yeah. Leah Seydoux was in, she was like Spectre. She's like the love interest from Spectre.
Yeah, there's two Bond people in this.
Yeah, there are two Bond people. Probably no coincidence.
It's British as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely filmed in Europe somewhere.
Somewhere
like that. But so this movie opens. It's a little strange when it opens, and if you haven't seen it, it's actually good to listen to a review beforehand because you can get confused very easily about the direction. Like this is not a movie that you'd expect to like blow out the box office because it's so like Nick said, it's so dry and dark.
Either you're going to get it or you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people shut this movie off halfway through because it just wasn't, they just weren't following.
Yeah. And you know, even when I tell people about it, like I describe it in a very, I start laughing when I describe it, but it's interesting because like when you first like turn on the movie, like it opens with a woman who's driving, I guess it's like, it's raining outside and she's driving and she's got, you know, she's driving with a purpose. And she just like all of a sudden like stops her, was it a truck? Like,
yeah, her truck.
Yeah, her truck. And then runs out on the side of the road. And so we're laughing because we've seen the movie and we get it. But she basically like pulls out like a pistol and just caps a donkey.
Just staying out in the field. And
just
the other two donkeys don't even act like anything happened. They're just,
they're
very calm.
Yeah. And if you hadn't read anything about this movie, you don't know anything it's about, you'd probably sit there and just be like, what the, like, that's kind of messed up. Like, what is happening?
But that donkey was probably a person.
I think it's basically like
probably
unspokenly said that it was actually a human being.
It was a human being who didn't make it in this camp and got turned to a donkey, and for whatever, maybe she was going to put the donkey out of its misery.
Or maybe it was like a relative she didn't like.
Yeah, or something.
Which is like the humor in it, right? Like, is that she's basically going to, anyways, actually we should probably outline the overview the story first a little bit more before we jump
I mean,
ahead.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell is recently, his wife left him, and if you're single in this alternate reality, you're forced to go to this resort where they provide you with shoes, clothing, a room, dart guns, which we'll get into later.
Yep.
And you have 40 days to find a mate. And when you check in, you tell them what animal you'd like to become if you don't make it. And you pick that animal. And if you don't find a mate, they turn you into that animal with some bizarre, presumably twisted, horrible machine that you never actually see.
Yeah.
And it just kind of goes from there.
And if you're ever wondering why there's so many dogs on Earth, it's the most common choice.
Yeah, that's they make a point of saying because Colin Farrell's choice, if he doesn't make it, is to get turned to a lobster,
which is actually pretty smart.
And his reasoning is they live to be like over 100. He always liked the sea.
He's always a good swimmer.
They're blue-blooded. Ever since he was a kid, he was a good swimmer. So he makes a very logical choice. And they say, a lobster is an excellent choice. Most people choose a dog. That's why you see so many dogs.
Yep. And it's funny because he actually shows up to the resort with his brother, who is a dog.
He goes, yeah, this is, and do you have any pets? Yes, my brother.
Yeah.
He's my pet. You may remember him from years ago. He didn't make it.
Yeah, nope, sorry, we don't remember him.
Yep. The logical choice thing comes into play because the way the humor in this movie is because everyone, it's really weird because they don't act like normal people. They speak in a very weird, direct, mannered way that's very on the nose and almost like, I'd say autistic, where they just say what they mean, and they're rude to each other, but not even in a rude way. There's no societal filter to speak kindly to people. If just someone has a bum leg, you tell them like, oh yeah, this is my friend, he has a bum leg.
Yeah, they speak almost in like exposition. Mm-hmm. They say how they feel. They'll. It's like I guess
very strange, like robots almost.
Yeah, it's very emotionless. Like there's actually one scene. There's one scene in the movie where this woman is trying to she's trying to figure out if like Colin Farrell, who conveniently is the only person in the movie who actually has a name.
David, right?
Yeah, it's David.
Everyone else is just Biscuit Girl, nearsighted woman.
Yeah,
the waitress.
And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Biscuit Girl. Like Biscuit Girl is trying to like seduce Colin Farrell.
No, Biscuit Girl jumps out the window and tries to kill herself.
But she's the one who tries to seduce him on the bus.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I had this written down too.
Yeah.
They have this weird conversation, this really loud conversation about sex on the bus.
Yeah.
Like just...
She's like, I'm very good at fellatio. I make great biscuits.
I would be totally open to anal if you'd like that.
Yeah.
And they're talking as loud as we're talking now, and other people on the bus just aren't even looking around because it just doesn't matter.
It would be like if you held up two like eHarmony profiles up to each other and read them aloud in like different voices and just were like, is this a match on paper?
Yeah.
Like that's how they try to match each other up. Like there's not like even like chemistry.
There's no romance in this because in this world you have to find a mate because being single is the single worst thing that can happen to you. So you are basically forced in literally a time frame to find a mate and just match up for even the smallest reason. Like, we both have bad breath. Perfect. We're a match.
we're a match made in heaven.
And then if you do find a match, they put you into a double room together, and then you move out to a yacht where you get to enjoy yourself, and then they release you into the real world. So people are just forced to find each other as mates for the smallest reason possible. Like, there's a girl who has frequent nosebleeds, and Ben Whishaw is attracted to her, so he sees his way out. He's in the pool, and you see him in the background while she's doing laps. He slams his nose onto the side of the pool to give himself a nosebleed, and he goes, "Oh, bloody hell! Like I get nosebleeds all the time." the next scene, they're like married, and they say,
"Love along the bleed."
Yeah, they're a perfect match. They both have the same problem with their noses.
And Ben Wishaw's character is known as Limping Man.
Limping Man because he has a bum leg.
Yeah. And so as Nick kind of mentioned before, like. They talk in that kind of robotic, like almost borderline autistic.
Yeah, rude, but not even meant to be rude.
Direct, yeah. And he was saying, Nick was saying there's like no emotion. Like back to the Biscuit lady, who that's actually her name, is like Biscuit Woman. I think she's like a day or two away from being turned into an animal, and she jumps out the window. And she told Colin Farrell that she was going to do it if she didn't find somebody. And that was like the only time I noticed at that resort that anyone actually showed like real emotion is when she was basically like dying.
She was wailing, like blood curdling, horrible, like whining screams.
And it's even funnier is they all like walk up and they're again so robotic about it. Like Colin Farrell's like, "Who is that? Oh, is that like Biscuit Woman?" Like, and
I think she threw herself off the 5th floor.
Yeah, he should have gone a little higher. It's like she's not dead. She tries to jump out the window of the resort, and everyone's just kind of sitting there, like matter of factly looking at her, like
just like, huh?
They're like, huh? But I kind of get it.
Yeah,
like I kind of understand why she did that. So another character in this is really funny is John C. Reilly's character. They're having a conversation where he's talking about like what animal he would be. Or he will be if he doesn't find someone. And he says he wants to be a parrot.
Yeah, and Colin Farrell in his, or everyone's just plain matter-of-fact speaking, he just goes, "That's totally ridiculous." He's like, you have a lisp and you want to be the one animal that can talk. He goes, "You're stupid." And then they get into one of the best fight scenes of the year where they just stand around jumping and skipping around each other, throwing little minor kicks and punches, and then they both just tie her out and just sit down.
Yeah.
It's like the funniest fight scene ever because it's like two little school children kicking each other in the yard.
Yep. And there's there's a little bit of I don't know, it's like an indoctrination or something in this too, where like the maid will come to Colin Farrell's room and give him like a lapper.
Yeah, like just grind dry on your underwear with her butt. She'll lift up her little maid skirt and just grind on you to try to arouse you. Yeah. And then she'll just leave. And this is the part I cracked up at. She goes, you got harder a lot quicker than last time. Good job. And then he goes, I don't suppose you could give me, 20 more seconds. And she goes, "No, I'll be back tomorrow." And then as she's leaving, Colin Farrell just goes, "Awful. Just awful." Just awful. Just why are you why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, instead of shaking his head and you kind of getting the point that he just doesn't like it, he actually just
says it.
Just awful. Just awful.
Yeah. So there's strict rules with this place. When they check in, you have to be heterosexual or homosexual. There's no bisexual, I said, because we've had problems with that in the past. So you have to choose. And then when he goes to get his shoe size for the tennis court, he goes, "Which shoe size?" I guess European size. 44 and a half. They go, "We have 44 and 45. There are no half sizes."
Yeah.
And there's a lot, there's rules. So, John C. Reilly, they find out he was masturbating, which you're not allowed to do, I guess. Yeah, it's outlawed. Totally outlawed. So they stick his hand in a toaster as his punishment. And
it's like Hammurabi's code or something like that.
So an eye for an eye, a load for a load. So and this place is just awful, but I guess it's better than risking being single, where I guess he would just be forced into this place anyway. So
so they don't actually, one thing, they don't actually, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, they don't actually show anyone getting turned into an animal.
They show one person after they've been turned into an animal.
Yeah.
The Nosebleeds girl's friend, who they mention, they're basically saying their goodbyes to each other, and they just sit there like robots going, "I've always enjoyed your friendship.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the one time we were dancing and you helped me, blah, blah, blah. And I've always envied your hair and you have great breasts. And I've always been jealous of your hair." And then it cuts, and then the girl is about to be turned into her animal, just slaps her across the face, and then she just gets up and goes, "Goodbye." And then the next frame, she's looking out the window, and there's this little mini horse with luxurious long hair. So it's like, I guess you get to keep your long hair as a horse.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, it's
like the first time I watched this movie, I think when I watch it now, I crack up the entire time. But it took me until halfway through this movie when my brain just clicked and was like, this is so ridiculous.
Yeah. Because the first time you watch it, you're definitely digesting it because it's very unique, and you're like, you're going to have to realize, what am I watching? And then after you have watched the first time, you get to go back and just realize how absurd it is. And I found it a lot funnier. Same with Killing of a Sacred Deer. I mean, I know we're not talking about that, but if you have a really fucked up sense of humor, then it'll be really funny. Because Killing of a Sacred Deer is a lot darker and way more messed up and twisted, but I still found it really funny because, again, like, I'm not going to talk about the plot of that, but it's so absurd and the same kind of mannered way of speaking, and everyone's kind of robotic, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just the director's style, but I found it really, really darkly comical.
The interesting thing about this director is he takes concepts that are like societal norms, and he takes them to like the absurdum side of the argument.
Yeah, just a really twisted way that you would tell this kind of story about people finding love, but in a completely unromantic, flat, matter-of-fact, really dark way that no one else would really tell this story.
Yeah. So he takes it and just runs with it really far, but he obviously keeps it really dry. Like he doesn't, like you'd expect if someone took something like this, like, you know, when you go to like the absurd or extreme angles of like an argument, there tends to be like a lot of emotion with it. Mm-hmm. But with this movie, it's super dry with lots of like exposition, and the emotion is like spoken. Everything. Yeah, they explain it all. And that's really, I think that's maybe the director's kind of style and writing, but you know, like we mentioned in the beginning, it depends on, this movie can be a Rorschach for you in a way, because it can depend on maybe where you are in your own life as to if you find this movie really sad or if you find this movie really funny. And it can also, you know, show things about your own sense of humor or your own perception of yourself, mm-hmm. which, I don't know, you can choose to tell or not tell anyone about how you actually feel about it. But when we watch it, we think it's funny.
Yeah, it's like a re-education camp for these people too. I mean, that there's in between the times where you're just socializing with people and they go to dances, and even the dance music. Remember when they go to the dance hall? It's like very depressing dance music, and they have these little seminars with classes where they teach you the benefits of not being single through these little these little skits. And there's literally the hotel staff are sitting, and he goes, woman walks alone, and then she's walking, and then another waiter comes up and simulates being a rapist and just starts humping her from behind, and she's like, help, help, help. And then woman walks with man, and then like he fights off the guy, and then everybody's and then man dines alone, and it's just a guy sitting there, and he fakes choking to death, and everybody sits there, and then they go, man dines with woman, and he starts choking, and she gives him the Heimlich and saves him, and everybody it's like explaining these people why you shouldn't be alone, but not because to find love and fulfillment in another person, just so you don't choke to death or get raped.
Yep. Or turn into an animal.
Yeah, or turn into an animal. So it's just a miserable way of looking at relationships.
Yeah. Another good scene while David, Colin Farrell's character, is at this place is they have the people who are at the resort go into the woods.
Yeah, this is where it takes a weird turn and kind of explains the second half of the movie. Good.
Yeah, so they go out into the woods, and they're basically looking for like loners.
Runaways, basically.
Yeah, like runaways from the resort, or like people who are, you know, single and can't find anyone and just don't want to get turned into an animal.
There's this whole tribe of people in the woods who have strayed from the camp, and they're called themselves the loners, and they live out in the woods. And the way the camp deals with this, or the resort deals with this, is everyone is issued a dart gun with like 10 to 15 tranquilizer darts. And I guess once every other day or whenever, you have to go out in the woods and hunt these people down and dart them and bring them back into the camp. And for every loner you take down and bring back, you get an extra day of your stay at the resort. And it's just, they go hunting.
And it's so funny because when they're out in the woods, like you can see these like animals there that are like totally out of place.
Yeah, it's like the Hunger Games, except for like a dating resort. It's so fucking bizarre. And there's this great slow-mo scene with this piano music where they're just running through the woods like savages, trying to shoot at each other and beating each other up. And they're all dressed in like khakis and button-down shirts and all like matching rain gear and stuff.
Yep.
So the turning point of this movie is when Colin Farrell decides, I've had enough. This is miserable. I'm going to find a mate no matter what. Like, so Ben Whishaw faked a nosebleed to get his mate. I'm going to do the same. So there's this one girl there who the narrator, who you later find out is Rachel Weisz, says she has no heart, and she's been here, like 200 something days, because she keeps earning extra days by darting loners. And she has absolutely no soul whatsoever. She's a miserable woman. But Colin Farrell says she's a perfect match for him because she has short hair. And I've always liked that of women. So even though this woman's the total psycho, she has short hair. Good enough.
Yeah.
So
I'll take her.
Yeah, I'll take her. So he goes on and just tries to literally play a cold, emotionless psycho just to get her. Like he he mocks the woman the biscuit girl who jumped out the window, and he goes, "I wish she'd die slower."
Yeah.
A more painful death.
Yep. So that's his like courtship with her, is they're both watching Biscuit Woman like wailing in pain, and he's trying to, you know, find his match with this heartless woman. He's like, "I wish she'd die slower."
So then they're in the hot tub together, and they sit together, and then the woman fakes choking on an olive from martini, and then Colin Farrell's just sitting there watching her fake choke to death, and it looks like she died. And then she slumps over for a second, looks up, and goes, "I think we're a match," because he didn't even save her. So they go in the double room together, and you know, they have sex a few times, and it's just miserable looking. Yeah, it's just like two robots doing it. And then she does something that makes him show emotion. I'm not going to say. And she basically goes, "Aha, I knew you were a liar." So she drags him off to the room to where he's going to get turned into an animal, because that's the penalty for lying to get a mate. And he goes, what are you going to turn me into? He goes, "The one animal no one wants to be." And they never say what it is, but he escapes from the camp or the resort, and goes into the woods and joins the loners. And this is where it kind of almost becomes a second movie. Yeah. Totally change in I guess premise, and I mean the tone is the same.
It's the same tone. It doesn't. What it's doing is there's a lot of irony and a lot of contrast, and the funny thing that I'm like thinking of now is like, so they get out to the loners, like all the loners are wearing like just straight up rain gear,
ponchos.
Yeah, they're living like they're living in Seattle or something, in the woods of Seattle. Yeah. And the funny thing is like, so they take a lot of the things from like the living at the resort and kind of like flip them on their head. Like,
yeah, it's like the opposite. Yeah, it's like the bizarro world of the resort.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed about the people, the loners, is they kind of act like animals. Yeah. Like they like hand signal each other, and like,
yeah, they become, yeah,
like they act like animals and maybe that's like, you know, because there's a reason for it. Like they don't want to make a lot of noise or to get caught,
just to survive, just to stay single.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to get paired up, and they don't want to go to this resort, but they don't want to get turned into an animal either. Yeah. And it's really funny because it's like the woods somewhere in Europe, right? And if you look carefully in the background, there's like occasionally you'll just see an exotic animal walking through the forest. Like there's like a peacock at one point, and then there's a flamingo walking in the woods, and you just have to know, like, it's a person.
Yeah, that's an actual
who didn't make it.
It's a person who didn't make it.
But they don't even draw attention to it. They'll be having a scene, and in the background you'll see a fucking camel just walking through the woods, and they don't even draw attention. It's like, yeah, the world is so full of these odd animals because they're just people who didn't find a mate, and it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
Yep. And so where this movie, you know, we're saying that it kind of becomes like a different movie. It's still funny. Yeah, it's still dark, but the thing that makes it so ironic and even more funny is like he goes this, like, you know, he's in this resort in the first half of the movie to find somebody. Mm-hmm. And then when he gets out into the woods and he's like trying to intentionally be a loner, he starts finding somebody. And they
but not through the rules of the resort.
Just naturally, like a natural
person would,
like a natural sort of like animalistic, like caveman courtship, right?
Mm-hmm. He brings her, Rachel Weisz. He brings her. She saves him from getting darted by the hunters, and she goes, you know, if you want to thank me, you can bring me a rabbit. So he captures a rabbit and lays it next to her while she's asleep. It gets weird. So then, without just explaining the whole plot, I mean,
like the loners group, Leah Seydoux is sort of, she's kind of like the leader.
Yeah, she's definitely.
And they don't show much about like actual society in the beginning of the movie. Like they show, you know, Colin Farrell's character like being brought in a car to the resort, but then they in the second half actually start showing like where the loners live in the woods, and then they start actually showing them going into like real society. Yeah,
because they're doing a secret operation.
Yeah. And so they're trying to maintain like they have like a cover kind of, right? Mm-hmm. And they have like identification and shit like that they actually have a mate and all that.
They pretend, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretending to fit into society while they do this undercover operation. Mm-hmm. And like one of the things that they appear. You want to take that?
What, like normal? Yeah, they appear normal. They fake love with each other. But then when Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz actually start falling for each other, they have to hide it because now they're among the singles. So, but Léa Seydoux starts to get onto them. Yeah. So they have to. And I think it shows like the inverse side of it, because I think the loners have this strict code where you're not allowed to be touchy-feely with people. You can't get relationships. You can't kiss each other. If you give each other a hug, it's just like as a thanks. It's just a cold, static hug. You're encouraged to masturbate here. So I mean, Colin Farrell comes back from sneaking off with his girl, and he just goes, "Oh, I was back in the woods masturbating."
Yeah.
So I think and it's also just I think the loner people are so disheartened with finding a mate that now they're jealous of anyone who does. Yep. So it's like the flip side of the resort. So they have to hide in secret together, and so they can be in love. They come up with a system of hand and arm signals to talk to each other, and it's really hysterical.
Yeah, it's funny. I think like the funniest scene in the movie is there, for me at least, is like Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz's character. Like they obviously start falling for each other with their little like caveman-esque courtship,
sneaking off.
Yeah, and they're doing like an appearance in the real society to like keep up the act that they're couples, and they're with Léa Seydoux's like parents. And and they're like they're there for like the second or third time, and they're listening to like some music that's like being played. I think it's like one of Léa Seydoux's parents is playing it, and they're listening, and as they're listening, they just start like kissing, and then like full on just like making out all over each other, super passionate. And since they're pulling off an act, like no one initially does anything, and they're just going at it, and then all of a sudden Léa Seydoux is like just like, stop it,
that's enough,
no more.
Where do my parents have some respect?
Where do my parents have some respect? And we don't want to talk about the ending of the movie too much, because there's some like more funny parts, like a little more serious. Actually, there are a couple really good like funny parts in it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it and you've listened to us so far, you should know by now whether or not you want to watch it or not. Yeah. If you have a really weird sense of humor, or this at least remotely interests you, I would definitely check it out.
Yeah. Even if you're curious, just give it a try.
It. Yeah.
Give it a try. And again, some people will interpret it and feel a different way about it than others.
And if you like it, then level 2 would be Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah, if you like this one, you'll probably like, Killing of a Sacred Deer was his movie that he came out with.
I don't know which one I like more, actually.
I like this one. Sacred Deer is good, actually.
I think you need to watch it again.
Yeah, I could probably watch it.
I've seen it about 3 times.
So, usually we do the pour yourself a drink tidbit at the end, but we're doing pick an animal.
Mm-hmm. So what would you be?
I would definitely be a tortoise. Because you live forever. It's easy to find food. You can swim. It just sounds kind of fun. You probably move really slowly through life, but You
always risk getting eaten by a shark.
No.
Do they really fuck with turtles?
I mean, it's turtle soup, but it depends where you live.
Yeah, just don't swim to Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
if you don't make it in the resort, don't go to Japan.
Yeah.
I gotta go like eagle or like a hawk.
That's pretty
They don't have too many natural predators, and you can fly.
Yeah, there's depends where you live too.
Yeah,
like, those are like the factors.
I'd be a bald eagle in America.
Yeah, well, I think it's illegal to kill or like shoot a bald eagle in America.
Yeah,
in Europe, I mean,
definitely,
yeah. So if you're curious about the Lobster, go ahead and check it out and let us know what you think.
If you have any suggestions on movies you'd love us to comment on, send us an email at amateurhourmovies@gmail.com, tweet us at amateurhourmov, or Instagram us at amateurhourmovies. We'll be teasing throughout the week our release for the following Monday on all these platforms.